Today we're looking at the unintended consequences of the NAR $418 million settlement. Now, some of these are going to be completely against the grain. In fact, some of these are going to actually go against what was presented in court. So we're going to look into those and see. You be the judge. You let me know, hey, are these actual things that are going to happen? Is this a fallout that's going to happen as a result of the NAR settlement? You're going to be the judge, so let me know in the comment section down below. So without further ado, let's dig into it. So right off the bat, we're going to go into number one, and that is prices will not, that's without, right? So will not fall. Now, here again, this is going to be completely against what the plaintiffs were alleging in their when they brought suit. That, or one of the things that they were wanting to do was win in the court of public opinion, like everybody, of course. And they were alleging that prices are going to fall as a result of the verdict if they got their verdict, if they got their way. And yes, they did get their way, given that the plaintiffs did win in the suit in 2023. So with that being said, I'm saying that the prices are not going to fall. That is something that is counter to what was alleged, counter to what was being proposed. And really, unfortunately, when this settlement occurred, that's what the mainstream media, and the media altogether, it wasn't even just mainstream, every single entity out there, regardless of where they were aligned politically, were parroting the same thing, that prices were going to fall. Well, if that was the intended consequence, well, the unintended consequences is that prices are not falling. Because they are not. So think about it this way. The best way that I can explain it would be, think of the FISBOs, people that are actually not working with agents right now, that did not hire a real estate agent, that were not paying commissions. Well, they're out there right now trying to sell for more, trying to sell for $30,000, $50,000 above asking price if an agent was to take on that listing. Well, those individuals, they are not paying the commissions, and they're still trying to collect as much as they possibly can. So think about yourself whenever you go out there to try to sell your home, regardless if you hire an agent or not. It really doesn't matter if you're paying a commission or not. You are looking to generate the highest return on investment on that asset that you own. It's human nature. So if you have the option of collecting some additional income, let me rephrase that. If you have the option of not paying a buyer's agent commission, which is something that you absolutely have the option to do regardless, if you're not paying buyer's agent's commission, you aren't willingly going to just drop your price and say, well, you know what, since I'm not paying the buyer agent commission, you know what, let me just drop it a little bit more just to help you out, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. That's just not going to happen. So I don't believe that prices are going to fall. The reason that prices have shot up the way that they have, it's a supply and demand issue. It is a interest issue. There's other external factors that are not commission based that have caused the prices of homes to rise, right? So that's something that I firmly believe in. That's something that the unintended consequences is that prices will not fall. Again, if the intention is the intention that was alleged was that prices are going to fall as a result of this settlement, well, that's not going to be the case. Now, the second thing here is, this one's going to be a little bit controversial. I believe there's actually going to be less homeowners. I think the ratio of homeowners, I think right now it's going to be in decline now. I think hedge funds are going to continue to buy up a ton more properties. I think investors, mom and pop investors, are going to buy more properties. I think that from somebody that is looking to purchase their first home, a lot of them are, unfortunately, it's going to be out of reach. So if you look at the difference between how much more you need to earn now than a couple of years ago, just think of 2020. So you needed to make 80% more in income to purchase your first home in just 4 years when you compare it to 2020. So this means that from 2020 to 2024, you needed to have earned 80% more in income in order to purchase your first house. That's how fast the prices had gone up. Now again, regardless of if you take my first unintended consequence into account or not, it's a reality that it is way more challenging to purchase a home right now, especially after this ruling, of course. But just with the prices, the way that they've been, I don't think that home ownership is going to be in reach for a lot of individuals, especially now, given that representation is going to be more challenging. So remember, with the way that it has been structured in the past and the way that buyer agency had been working, a first-time home buyer, they didn't necessarily have to come out of pocket immediately to pay that buyer's agent, which is something that a lot of individuals are now having to face. A lot of those individuals will have to face that up front. And on top of that, they're going to pay the same price. Again, it's not because I don't believe prices are going to come down. So not only are they paying the same amount of price for that home, now they're going to have to come out of pocket in several instances if the seller is not willing to budge. Well, they're going to have to come out of pocket and pay representation. So unfortunately, some folks are going to be left behind. They're not going to be able to afford the home. So I believe that there's going to be less homeowners altogether. So that's something that, whether it was intended or unintended, I firmly believe it's an unintended consequence, which is completely opposite of what the plaintiffs were alleging or were suggesting to win in the court of public opinion. They were saying that agents were fixing prices or commissions, agents were colluding, agents were causing the prices of the homes to rise, and they were saying that if they got their way, homeowners would be in more control, more homeowners would be able to purchase a home, and I don't believe that's the case. So that is something that, again, I'm gonna tag it. I'm gonna add it to the unintended consequences. Now, something else, whether if you agree, whether it's by design or not, let me know in the comment section down below, because this is something that's why the channel exists, to have these types of conversations. Another unintended consequences. Let me just put this. There's going to be way more lawsuits. Litigation is going to go rampant. More buyers are going to sue. More buyers are going to get sued. More buyers agents are going to sue, and they're going to get sued as well. Every single organization within the real estate transaction is going to get a rapid rise in litigation. And I'm not just talking about buyers. I'm not just talking about sellers. I'm not just talking about listing agents. I'm not just talking about buyers agents. I'm talking about the entire transactional people, inspectors, title companies, anybody and everybody. There will be a lawsuit to go around. It's something that, quote this here in the next 12 months, in the next 2 years, when we have a bit more data, once data starts coming out, I think I'm going to be proved right. Unfortunately, I think that the attorneys here in this case, they're going to continue to get richer, and I think that litigation here is just going to happen. There's a lot more at stake in this regard now, so I just think that there's going to be more lawsuits altogether. Again, for sure, I believe more sellers are going to get sued, exponentially more, along with more buyers are going to get sued because of broken contracts, broken written agreements that they are now signing with agents before they can get represented or before they can see a home. So I think every person here is going to see an additional legal expense, hands down. The fourth unintended consequence is going to be less agents. Now, this one seems pretty obvious, at least in the comment section, and that's going to be a thing. There's going to be less real estate agents. So think about what happened in 2023. 49% of the agents out there sold 1 or 0 transactions, 1 or 0 homes in 2023. So that's about 50% of the agents out there are not making an income, essentially, are not making a living off of the having their real estate license. And with this additional level of complexity, it's just going to be more challenging. So I think a lot of real estate agents are going to go away. The hobbyist agents are going to go away. So there's some predictions of 1 million real estate agents are going to go away. I don't believe that that's going to be the case. Ultimately, where I think it's going to end up being is I think 600 to 700,000 agents are gone. Unfortunately, that's just what I believe. Now, on the same token, while there's going to be less agents, I believe that mega agents are going to become ultra agents. The agents that are closing 200, 300, 400 transactions right now, they're going to get to 500, 600, 800. The transactions are still going to be there. And I believe that the mega agents that are dominating the market right now are going to become ultra agents that are going to absolutely take over. And again, the transactions are still there. The amount of homes that are sold, $6 to $7 million, 6 to 7 million transactions per year, are still going to happen. It just means that there's going to be less real estate agents that are going to make them happen. So the agents that are left in the game, if you will, that are left in this profession, they're gonna they're gonna clean up. They're gonna just heavily index in transactions. So for those agents, it's gonna be fantastic, and I hope that's you. Another unintended consequence, we're seeing it right now, and that's the loan requirements. Loan requirements will need to change. Think about the VA loan. Think about how when you do a VA loan, your client, they're not allowed to come out of pocket for a buyer's agent's expense, or an additional expense, if you will. So that's something that is actually being addressed right now. NAR, if I'm not mistaken, this week petitioned or sent a letter to the VA asking them to reconsider their regulations, the way that they operate these types of loans, because right now there's a very high likelihood that VA buyers could go unrepresented because of that one clause, because of that one thing where they're not able to they're not required, they're not able to come out of pocket for that expense. So that's something that is going to happen. I think loan requirements altogether are going to change, where you're going to find yourself able to finance the commission as part of the loan, which was happening right now already in this particular environment, where you're getting the loan approved, and it's from that loan approval that the compensation to the buyer's agent would end up happening. Now, sure, the loan would go to the seller, then the seller would pay the listing agent, and the depending on the state that you're in, the commission would then get separated at the title company, the portion going to the listing agent and the portion going to the buyer's agent. That's how it's being funded anyway. It's through the loan itself, but now since commission is being decoupled, that's something that will need to change. So loan requirements will absolutely need to change. Speaking of title companies, if you're in a title company state, and even if you're not, but I think title companies, especially title cos, they're going to be way more involved in transactions. From the services that they provide. So right now, if you live in a title company and in a title state, a title that they do a good portion of the transaction once it's under contract, and they'll do the title search, so sell you a title policy. That's where they're generating their income. But now I believe they're actually going to do a little bit more. I think that they're going to try to get a little bit closer to the buyer in this particular case and help them and facilitate that transaction. Same thing with the seller. So I see in the very near future, again, it's an unintended consequence, I see them opening up their array of services to get a little bit closer to the buyer, get a little bit closer to the seller, because right now, from a title company's perspective, they're getting their business from an agent. At this point, I believe they're going to actually try to get a little bit closer to the buyers and to the sellers and offer them more services. Some of those services, especially from those buyer clients that might not be able to or are unwilling to go represented with a buyer's agent. So that's something that I think is going to happen. I think title companies are going to open up their services to get a little bit closer to that buyer and help them along the way to close to the transaction. So another way of saying it is cutting out the agent as much as possible. I think that's what's going to happen. And again, I have no way of knowing this, but it just seems that that's what's going to end up happening. And then the seventh thing is, I believe that the smaller, hopefully I can fit this, smaller brokerages, I believe that they're going to go away. I'll put that red one right there. So I believe smaller brokerages are going to go away. There's going to be a consolidation at the top. I think you're going to see a lot more M&A activity. You're going to see large brokerages end up gobbling up brokerages left and right. You're going to even see some major players in the space gobbling up as well. So there's going to be a lot of brands. There's going to be a lot of consolidation to where there's going to be less and less. There's going to be less and less mom and pop brokerages altogether. You see this basically in every industry out there, whether it's the pharmacy industry with CVS and Walgreens taking over, whether it's the car rental industry, where basically if you see 5 options, 6 options of car rental companies, as soon as you get out of the airport, well, in reality, you only have 2 options. They've all consolidated into major holding codes. They just give you the illusion of options, and I think that's what's ultimately going to happen in the real estate industry. I think that there's going to be such a consolidation that you're going to have a limited service, if not limited service, limited amount of competition out there, and then you can, at that point, the unintended consequences, then you will run into a collusion issue where there's not going to be as many folks that are going to give you options. There's not going to be as many entities that give you options. Now, again, this one's this is going to take some time to play out, but I do believe that this is going to be an unintended consequence. This is not the most obvious thing. This is a little getting on the fringe of a prediction, if you will. Okay, it's a full-fledged prediction, but I do think it's a unintended consequence that the thing that was supposedly to be settled right now and to be solved right now with this whole that the agents are colluding, that they're fixing prices and all that stuff. If you thought that was happening now, which it wasn't, wait until the consolidation of all these brokerages happens. Then you're going to have an issue. But anyway, I'd like to get your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section down below which one of these 7 unintended consequences do you believe to be accurate? Which ones do you not agree with? Let me know in the comment section down below. Again, this is a place to have conversations. But outside of that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on the way out. I'll see you on the next one.